My name is Ashlynn Stolz, and this is my testimony. I grew up with a parent who's an alcoholic and a parent who was a workaholic. Family life was very chaotic. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming. It was just very, I guess chaotic was the best word to describe it. On one side of the family, there's a lot of mental illness and addiction, and thankfully I ran the opposite direction of that. But growing up, that was a pretty big struggle in our family. I didn't realize it at the time, but I feel like God really chased after me like I was the one out of the 99. And I didn't realize that until I was older. But God planted a lot of seeds in my life and a lot of people in my life to help lead me to Him, since I wasn't growing up in a Christian home. One of the people, Brooke, she and her parents took me to church every Sunday. I ended up going to church camp with her in 2012, and I ended up getting saved at that church camp in Bixby. I have a snippet of what I wrote in my journal this is June 12th, 2012. I was 17 at the time and still living at home, which was not a Christian home. And on the other side of that, I was being taken to church every week. I felt very alone and isolated at home because I was just living a different life than really what my parents were or what I was being raised as. There's nothing more I'm curious about than what you have in store for me. I wonder what changes are to come in my life, who deserves to stay, and who I won't ever talk to again. I want to know who you are. I want to know you. I want a relationship with you. I need forgiveness for all I've done wrong. I want to give my entire life to you and never go back to the way things were before big stuff. I know you have incredible things in store for me, but what? Where am I going? I need guidance to where I need to go and what direction I'm headed.
So after Big Stuff, I was 17. I did my senior year, and then I ended up at ORU. I did my freshman year, and then my sophomore year, I met Cody. We got married pretty quick. I ended my sophomore year, and then we got married the next month, and then we had Adam the following January. I dealt with a lot of feelings of unworthiness at the beginning of our marriage. For one, just because we came from very different backgrounds. I had a really negative view of marriage growing up. Between my parents, there was constant fighting. They didn't sleep together. One worked till really late at night. The other one drank and was normally passed out. So once they got divorced, it almost was a relief. Unfortunately, that was what was happening or happened. There was an affair involved, whereas Cody had very devout Christian parents, and he was in a Christian homeschool program. So he was growing up just completely different than I was. I guess another reason I felt that unworthiness was because in high school, because I wasn't getting attention at home, between the alcoholism and the other parent at work all the time, I sought attention through boys long before I ever met Cody. So when we did get married, I felt a lot of unworthiness. I felt like even though I had seen the negative side of marriage, I knew exactly what I didn't want in marriage. And I feel like that God has just given me so much grace to not only bless me with Cody and someone that I never thought would want to marry me, coming from where I came from. We did not have a lot of money. My parents were divorced. It was so chaotic in my house growing up. So I was probably not the picture perfect person that him or his parents were looking for his future wife. But I think God just blessed me so much, even though I had made so many mistakes, even though I had come from not a Christian home, even though I had had sex before marriage, I had been in a pretty long-term relationship where I was living with someone at 18. Within a few years, God just blessed me so much by just being obedient and being able to hear his word and to continue to seek after him. I eventually found Cody, and once we got married, God just was able to redeem so many things about me throughout marriage. It was a marriage that I never expected, to be honest. I was so worried about getting married, thinking I was going to end up divorced like my parents, or my kids were going to have a broken home. And it has honestly been complete opposite. Throughout Cody and I's marriage, we've miscarried 4 times. We have 3 living little boys. But through that, I really struggled with feeling like those miscarriages were, I guess, punishment for, I guess, my past. I know that's not true now, but I really struggled with that. But once we got pregnant with Miles, we had a lot of complications with him. And so towards the end of that pregnancy, I ended up with life-threatening complications. So blood loss was basically what was the big thing. They really thought I was going to lose enough blood that they weren't going to be able to save me. And had that happened, Miles wouldn't have been saved. And so after he was born, we obviously both lived, but there was a lot of trauma there, just because I felt like that was really going to be the end of my life at 25 years old, and leaving behind Cody and 3 kids, or possibly 2 kids, and losing me and Miles. We witnessed a miracle though, because the complications they had seen prior to the C-section and right after, they were not there. So we really witnessed a miracle. My perspective of life just really changed after that, to save my life from so many situations, from car wrecks to pregnancies. I just really felt like God had saved my life so many times that at that point, I just felt like he had to have had something big in store for my life. After Miles, I felt like not only did God have something big in store for me, but I was able to live through that, to tell my testimony that, miracles are still happening. When we came to South Community, Cody and I were 21. We had just had Adam, so he was like 5 weeks old. The people and family we have from South Community, I feel like really gave us that constant support and love that we needed. And I just would encourage anyone who feels like it's too late. It's never too late for Jesus. I am currently trying to get back into college to finish the degree that I stopped 10 years ago. And I feel like God had planted that seed a long time ago. And even though maybe things didn't play out necessarily the way I originally thought it was going to play out, we had 3 kids and Cody started a business, and I'm now trying to get back into college. I feel like God had always planted that seed in my life to want to go back to teach and really get to be with children and hopefully plant that seed into their lives and their hearts. I truly have a peace and joy in my life now that took a long time to get to, but I know that God's been here for me all along and brought me through some really hard things and some hard times, and through when I felt were really lonely times. I know that I'm not alone. I know that I have God through all these situations, and He was with me even when I was little, and even when I wasn't going to church or my parents weren't taking me to church. I know that God was following me this whole time, and it's just really cool to see what God has done in my life when I was not the person that I would have ever expected God to chase after. I feel like He was there even when I wasn't living as if He were there. And I feel like to continue to seek after Him and to put yourself in situations that are good for you and not grow up too fast in relationships, and to be the person that's okay with leaving the friend group if they're doing things you don't want to do, to not fall into that peer pressure. I think to continue to seek after God because He's there waiting for you. He's never left to continue to seek God. And He's there waiting. I guess the best way for me to end this is to say how redeeming that God is.
Washed in His blood, and what He did for me on Calvary is more than enough. So I trust in God, my Savior.